Inside this glittering mansion, the staff lived in silence, terrified of one woman, the millionaire's wife. But no one dared to challenge her until a new maid arrived. What happened next shocked the entire household forever. The Blackwood mansion sat at the edge of the town like a monument of power. Its walls rose high, windows glittering in the sun, chandeliers hanging inside like captured stars. Outsiders often spoke of it with awe, imagining golden halls, grand dinners, and wealth beyond measure. But for those who lived and worked within its walls, it was less a palace and more a prison wrapped in velvet. At the center of that prison stood Vivian Blackwood, the millionaire's wife. Vivian had beauty that could silence a room, but her tongue was sharper than glass. She carried herself like royalty, draped in designer gowns and jewels that sparkled as coldly as her gaze. Her voice could echo down the halls before she appeared, and with it came dread. The staff never called her by name. She was always Madam, and even that word was spoken with lowered eyes and trembling lips. Every clink of her heels on the marble floor sent a ripple of fear through the household. The butler, Mr. Evans, had served the family for nearly 2 decades, yet even he bowed so deeply when Vivian entered that his back ached for days. The maids moved in silence, careful not to laugh too loud, not to breathe too heavy, not to leave a single smudge behind. Vivian's cruelty wasn't in shouts alone, it was in humiliation, in reducing proud women and men to shadows of themselves. A glass placed a fraction too close to the table's edge earned sneers. A wrinkle in an apron drew ridicule. Even silence wasn't safe. She found fault in posture, in expressions, in imagined disrespect. Into this house of silence walked Elena, the new maid. Elena was young, no more than 22, her dark hair tied neatly at her nape, her brown eyes steady though they hid the weight of her struggles. She had grown up in poverty, working since she was a child to support her widowed mother and little brother. Life had not been kind to her, but hardship had taught her endurance. Her first week in the Blackwood mansion was a storm of whispered warnings. Do not look her in the eye. Speak only if spoken to. Never ever argue. Elena listened quietly, nodding, but inside she wondered how people could live like this for years. She saw the fear in their movements, the way their shoulders hunched as if expecting a blow. One morning, as Elena dusted the tall mirrors in the hall, she caught her reflection, chin high, back straight. She whispered to herself, "I will not let fear eat me alive." But when Vivian's heels clicked across the marble that same afternoon, Elena felt her chest tighten just like the rest. Vivian swept into the dining room, crimson silk flowing around, her diamonds catching the light. She stopped suddenly, her sharp eyes landing on one of the older maids, Mrs. Turner, who was arranging the cutlery. "Pathetic," Vivian snapped, lifting a spoon and letting it clatter back onto the table. "Do you call this polished? I can see fingerprints. Do you imagine my guests enjoy eating from filth?" Mrs. Turner stammered an apology, her hands trembling so badly she nearly dropped the tray. Vivian rolled her eyes. Useless. After 20 years in service, and you still fail at the simplest task. Elena felt her jaw tighten as she watched. Something inside her burned, but she swallowed it down. Speaking up would only make it worse for everyone. She knew that. For days, Elena observed. She saw how Vivian broke spirits with a smile, how she enjoyed reminding the staff of their place. She watched Mrs. Turner cry quietly in the pantry, Mr. Evans clutch his chest after being berated, and the younger maids whisper about quitting but never daring to. By the end of her second week, Elena understood. This wasn't just a workplace. It was a house built on fear, and fear had chained everyone to silence. But silence, Elena thought, could not last forever. Evenings in the mansion were the hardest. The golden chandeliers lit the dining hall in warm light, but for the staff, it felt like stepping into an arena. Each dinner was a performance, and Vivian was the merciless judge. On one such night, Vivian prepared to host a gathering of influential guests, bankers, politicians, and a visiting art dealer. Her expectations were impossible. Every fork had to shine like silver fire, Every flower in the arrangement had to face the perfect angle. Every dish had to arrive steaming hot, but never too late. The staff scurried like mice. Elena carried trays, back and forth, watching Vivian's eyes follow them like a hawk. When Mrs. Turner dropped a spoon onto the polished floor by accident, the room froze. Vivian's face twisted and she hissed loudly enough for all to hear. "You clumsy fool. Perhaps you belong in the gutter rather than in my house." The guests exchanged awkward glances. Mrs. Turner's lips trembled, tears welling in her eyes. That was the moment Elena's restraint cracked. She stepped forward, setting down her tray with deliberate care. Her heart thundered in her chest, but her voice, when it came, was clear and steady. "Madam," Elena said, meeting Vivian's eyes, "respect should not be stripped away over a spoon. We all serve faithfully here. We deserve dignity." The room gasped. The other maids froze, horrified. Even Mr. Evans looked pale as marble. No one had ever spoken back to Vivian Blackwood. Vivian's eyes narrowed into slits. She stalked toward Elena, her heels striking like hammer blows. "You dare," she spat, her face inches from the young maids. "You insignificant girl, you think you can speak to me as if we are equals?" Elena did not flinch. Inside, fear twisted her stomach, but she stood tall. "I speak as a human being, madam. Equal in worth, if not in fortune." Silence. The entire hall held its breath. Vivian's lips curled into a cruel smile. "You will regret this. By tomorrow, you will be on the streets, and I will make sure no house in this city takes you in again." But before Elena could reply, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Turner, with her wrinkled hands and trembling frame, stepped forward. "She is right." Her voice shook, but it carried a strange, long-buried strength. "We have endured enough. Years of humiliation, and for what? To be treated as less than animals? No more." One by one, others found their courage. "I'm tired too," whispered Clara, the youngest maid. "We are not slaves," said another. "If speaking costs us our jobs," added Mr. Evans, voice heavy but firm, "then so be it. Better unemployed than dishonored." They stood together, a line of weary but unbroken souls behind Elena. Vivian's fury blazed. "You fools! Without me, you are nothing. You will beg to return." But Elena shook her head. Her voice was soft, yet unyielding. "No, madam. We may be poor, but we are not powerless. You cannot chain us with fear anymore." For the first time in years, Vivian Blackwood's authority cracked. Not because of wealth, not because of force, but because of courage. The confrontation sent shockwaves through the mansion. The guests at the dinner whispered among themselves, scandalized yet intrigued. Some admired the bravery of the staff. Others looked at Vivian with thinly veiled disgust. Before Vivian could regain her composure, the grand oak doors of the dining hall opened. Richard Blackwood, her husband, stepped in. He had returned earlier than expected from a business trip. His sharp eyes swept the room. The trembling staff. Vivian flushed, with rage, Elena standing tall at the center of it all. "What is happening here?" Richard demanded. Vivian rushed to him. "These ungrateful servants have rebelled against me. They dared to challenge my authority under my own roof." But Richard did not look at her. His gaze settled on Elena. "Is this true?" Elena's hands trembled, but she bowed her head respectfully. "Sir, we have worked hard and faithfully, but Madam has treated us with cruelty. We are workers, not prisoners. We only ask for respect." The silence that followed was heavy. Richard studied the faces of his staff, men and women who had served his family loyally for years, now standing united. His expression hardened as he turned to his wife. "Vivian," he said, his tone sharp with finality, "is this how you rule my house when I am away? By terrorizing those who keep it alive?" Vivian's eyes widened. "You would take their side over mine?" "I will take the side of truth," Richard said firmly. "If they have endured in silence all these years, and now even Mrs. Turner dares to speak, then I believe them. Enough. The room held its breath. If you cannot treat these people with dignity, Richard continued, his voice like steel, then perhaps you are the one who does not belong here. Vivian's face drained of color. For the first time, she was the one cornered. She looked around and saw only defiance in the eyes of the staff, only disappointment in the eyes of her husband. Without another word, she turned sharply and stormed out, her heels clicking not with power, but with defeat. The moment she was gone, a long silence lingered. Then Mrs. Turner let out a shaky sob of relief. Clara began to cry openly, and even Mr. Evans wiped at his eyes. Richard approached Elena. His voice softened. You have given them courage I never thought possible. From today onward, this house will be one of respect. You all have my word. The rain. Staff straightened, as though a great weight had been lifted. They were still workers, yes. They still had duties, yes. But the chains of fear had been broken. That night, as Elena walked the long halls of the mansion, she no longer felt the suffocating silence. The marble floors gleamed the same, the chandeliers shone the same, but something was different. The air itself felt lighter. In the quiet pantry, Mrs. Turner grasped Elena's hands with tears in her eyes. Child, you gave us our voices back. I thought I'd die in silence, but you reminded us we are human. Elena smiled faintly. We are all stronger together. And so, the mansion that once echoed with fear began to echo with laughter, whispers of hope, and the sound of dignity restored. For courage is not the absence of fear, it is standing tall despite it. And in that house, one maid's defiance lit a flame no cruelty could ever extinguish.